Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be my monthly update to No Pan Left Behind. So that is a project where you try to use every single one of your eyeshadows in every single one of your palettes. I have been doing this for the entire year, so I will be updating you on my progress, how many palettes I was able to complete this month with all the looks that I did with them, and to talk about where I think I'm going to end for 2025. So if that all sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around. But with all that, let's get into these palettes. All right, so I am really happy with this update. I pulled all the palettes out of my drawer, counted them up, did my numbers so I'd have them ready, and I did better than I thought I was going to. I thought I would have a little bit more palettes. I don't keep track of them. I use them, keep them aside until I finish them up. Then I put them in my drawer to just kind of stay out of the way and not clutter up my desk space. So I did think I would have more palettes, but I am really happy with my numbers. But first, we're going to start with my palettes that I'm in progress of using. It's actually the palette that's on my eyes today. I do only have one in progress palette right now, and it is the Bella Beaute Bar Unorginal Nudes. Let me scoot over so I can pop my graphics and my looks up with the palettes while I talk. For my in progress palettes, I don't show my looks, but I'll show which shades that I've used. I've used about half this palette. It is a newer palette to my collection. I got it maybe like a month ago or so, and I'm loving this palette. Loving this palette. It is a neutral palette. I mean, it's called Unoriginal Nudes. You know exactly what you're going to get with this palette. I love that the shades are just called Unoriginal Nude 1, Unoriginal Nude 2, and then the shimmers are Token Shimmer 1, Token Shimmer 2, Token Shimmer 3. I think it's really funny and like a cute just nod to a neutral palette, but this palette is spectacular. I love the look that I came up with today. I'm using these two mattes, this matte here, and then this shimmer. Do wish I did my eye look first because I'm getting quite a bit of fallout with this palette, but still, it's everything that I want in a neutral palette, and I'm very much enjoying my time with this one. So this should be done for sure next month. I usually don't have too many in progress palettes. It's just too much for me to keep track of personally. So that's why I max will have like 3 palettes, and I really try to get through them before I start a new one. So now that we've talked about the in progress palettes, let's talk about all the palettes that I did finish. And there's actually 10 here, and a lot of them are pretty big palettes. I really put the work in this month to try and get my numbers up. There's only one more update after this, and then we're done with 2025. So I'm really trying to push and make my goal as much as I can. And I did a decent job. Now, there were days where I could have done multiple looks, and I had the intention, like I got up that day, did my makeup, and I was like, I'll do another look later on in a couple hours, and I just was too lazy to do it. So I definitely could have done more palettes. That's where I'm feeling just a little bit down on myself, because there were a couple of those days where I just decided to not do more than one look. But I still did, for the most part, wore eyeshadow almost every single day, 95% of the time this past month. So I did good, but I know I could have done better. Anyways, let's go with the smallest palettes first that only took one look. So the first one that I have here is from M Cosmetics. This is the Divine Skies eyeshadow palette in the colorway Roden. Another neutral palette. I mean, I am a neutral girl. There's just no tiptoeing around it. I think it's very obvious by now. I prefer neutrals over color. Color's okay sometimes. It's fun to like play with, but at heart, I'm a neutral lover. So this is what this palette looks like. It only took me one look to use this, but I'm glad that I finally dipped into this palette. This was a palette in my drawer of shame that I just had unopened for a couple years now. And it was just about time that I just got it opened and got it used. Really nice, cute palette. I think that M Cosmetics is a little bit overpriced. Like, this is an over $40 palette, and it's just not worth it. I wouldn't purchase a palette like this ever again. Like maybe in the $20, $25 range I would. It's decent enough for that, but past that, no. I'll keep this around because I have it, but it wouldn't be anything I would say is so great. The formula is not so spectacular that you should run out and go buy it. Another palette from my palette of shame. I was really trying to focus in on some of those palettes this month. I have two goals for the end of the year is to try and use as many palettes of shame that I can. I did recently do a video going over all of my palettes of shame. I will link that video up above, and there were just way too many. So that's my first goal with this project. And then my second goal was to get through all of my Unearthly palettes and my Cosmic Beauty palettes, because I would like to rank those palettes coming up this month. So I did some good progress with that. But let's get back to my other pile of shame palette, or palette of shame. This is just like a holiday Dior palette. It's just a quint, and it's supposed to look like a clutch. I mainly bought it because I thought it looked pretty, but again, like, you have a pretty neutral color story here. It's a nice palette. It's okay. I liked the look that I came up with. I like that we have like a really light inner corner shimmer, or even just a brow bone highlight. And then you have kind of more of a gold shimmer. You have an eyeliner shade, you have a crease shade, a deepening up shade, and then a liner shade. It's an all-in-one look. Quite nice. Like, again, would I go and make the same mistake purchasing a palette like this again? No. But I was younger back then and full of hope and full of dreams. So that's why I have this. But now that I've used it, I feel much better. The itch has been scratched, and I won't buy a palette like this ever again. All right, let me kind of try to separate these into piles that make sense. Perfect. Okay, so first let's go over Natasha Denona. I have two Natasha Denona palettes I was able to completely no pan left behind. First one is the Retro palette. Fell in love with this palette. It's a great palette. I would say this is the first palette from Natasha Denona for me that she came out with where I started really paying attention to her and what she was coming out with. Before it was like, oh, she's a luxury makeup artist. Her palettes are really expensive. It must be really good quality. This is the first one where I was like, yeah, I'm liking what this brand is coming out with. Love this Andy shade here, the perfect kind of pinky mauve shade for me. And they came out with really pretty looks with this. Liked it a lot. So I'm happy that I got to use that one. And then the other one that I had was the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude. Probably my favorite Natasha Denona palette. Eventually, I would like to redo my Natasha Denona video where I ranked my palettes from them. I'll link my old one up above, but it's pretty outdated by now. So I'm not hyper focusing on my Natasha Denona palettes, but I am trying to just knock out one here and there so I could eventually rank them after Cosmic Beauty and Unearthly. Like, those are on the forefront of my mind right now. But I pulled this one into Deck of Panning, so I will link that video up above, and very easily was able to no pan left behind this palette. It's a very easy palette. Like I said, nudes are my jam, and this is more on the neutral, like true neutral leaning cool side. So perfect for me. An absolutely 10 out of 10 palette. I have nothing bad to say about this palette. Then we'll go over maybe some of my one and dones. Let's just go over the only Unearthly palette that I have is the Spring Magic palette. I believe this was the last one that I have in my collection to finish before I can rank this brand. However, if you saw my purchases and empties that came out on Thursday, I'll link that video up above, then you know that my mom brought quite a few palettes back for me that I had purchased over in the States, and like 3 or 4 of those were Unearthly palettes. So I had my work cut out for me, but that was why I had kind of had that as a goal, that I wanted to finish these palettes before those palettes came, so I didn't have like a huge pile of Unearthly to go through. Not my favorite palette, to be honest, in functionality. I think it's very pretty, but the looks that I came up with, I just didn't fully love as much as I thought I was going to love this palette. Unearthly is a very interesting one. I'm even interested to really see when I finally sit down to film that video where I put each palette, because looking at the palette versus what I actually like the palette for when I'm wearing it is completely different. And I'm learning a lot about myself through this brand, very much like the brand. I think they're a great formula if there's a color story that you like. I just think that, I don't know, every palette that I use from them, I'm always like, oh, I didn't think I would like this one as much, or I thought I was going to like this one more. So it's very polar opposite from what I think versus what I actually ended up liking about this. But you saw my looks with this. I think it's a solid palette, not my number one from them, but it's a solid one for sure. Then the next one we'll talk about is this Gourmande Girls Mocha Moment. Did I say that I love neutrals? Because I love neutrals. I loved this palette. This is a newer palette to me as well. I purchased it when I got the Unorginal Nudes palette in that order. Very much like this palette, kind of Gourmande Girls take on spicy neutrals. Now, I will say with this palette, I wish there was maybe one more of like a green shimmer because it's very green heavy, which I would agree is kind of like a neutral, but I didn't really have a shimmer that I loved with the greens. Definitely had a shimmer with like the pinky mauves, with kind of more of the beigey browns, but with the greens, I was lacking something, even if it was kind of more of an antique gold. I mean, there are some golds here. I think these two golds right here are very, very similar. I'll swatch them on my hand for you. One's just a little bit deeper and one's just a little bit more particle, like the particles are spaced out more. I don't know if you can tell, but it just didn't really, I was missing a little bit something for the greens. Not a huge deal, still very much enjoy this palette. Most of the time, if I'm going to pull this palette out just for fun anyways, I'm going to reach into the purples or the browns. The green's going to be the last thing that I pull for, even though I do very much like a green look. I would say green is fairly neutral in my opinion. But yeah, that's my only really call out. Other than that, really like this and very happy that I purchased it. And then the last one and done palette, or like one brand palette that I have to talk about, is the Too Faced Appley in Love palette. So I pulled this in for my Throwback Thursday video. I'll link that video up above. And then I just decided if I was going to do a look with this palette, I might as well finish it No Pan Left Behind. So I very, very easily did that. Really liked my looks with this palette. I have some call outs. I really, really do not like this shade Bite Me. It's the worst shimmer ever. It just like isn't even a shimmer, and it kind of just looks like it just looks thick and dry. I don't really love it. The greens weren't as intimidating as I thought. Like this Pick Me shade is a little bit green for sure, but this shade here, which is Slice Slice Baby, kind of turns out to be a duochrome green to gold flip. So it's not as green as you would think. I've been using a lot more indie palettes than mainstream. So I think when I see the color, I'm expecting just like really bright pigmented colors to what I see in the pan. And it was much more subdued than that. A really solid mainstream palette. I actually quite like this one a lot. I know not everyone loves it, but I don't mind it. I even didn't mind the red looks that I did with this. Just the absolute quintessential Thanksgiving palette in my eyes. And now, okay, we have 3 palettes left to do, and they are all Cosmic Beauty because, like I said, I was trying to knock out my Cosmic Beauty palettes. So the first one and my newest palette is the Cosmic Beauty Smoulder palette. You're going to see my ranking for Cosmic Beauty because I did already film that video. It's going to come up soon. I love this palette. It is such a good one. If this is a color story that is up your avenue, highly, highly recommend picking them up. Now, Cosmic Beauty has put out 2 palettes since this palette, and since I've done my ranking or, tried to use them, I did decide I'm not going to purchase those right away. So it didn't make sense for me to pause that video, get those palettes, try them, and include them in my ranking. If I was a really good YouTuber making, thousands of dollars a month, I would have done that, but I'm not. So I'm going to hold off on those palettes right away. I do plan on picking them up. It's the Starlight palette and the Death palette. I do like them. They're just not an immediate purchase for me. I have some trips coming up that I really want to focus on. It's just not something I want to put my budget towards right now. But this one, I mean, the shimmers are spectacular. This Ember shade right here, love it. I wore this palette in a video or two maybe, and I think the looks turned out really pretty. This was one of the palettes where I did a look and I was going to do another look throughout the day, and I just liked my eyeshadow too much to do it, and I was feeling a little bit lazy, so I was like, no, I'm gonna just wear this look the whole day. I don't know, very much enjoyed this palette a lot. Probably my favorite palette out of the bunch here. Then the next Cosmic Beauty palette I had to do was the Muse palette. This took me quite a few looks to do. You're going to see where it falls in my ranking, so I don't want to give too much away. This was one of the first palettes that I purchased from Cosmic Beauty. I purchased this one and Delicious Delights at the exact same time. This was the palette, though, that got me interested in trying Cosmic Beauty, so I will say that. And I think this is a great solid palette. I don't think it's too colorful for people who are neutral lovers. I think it gives you a little bit of everything. You have still, like, the green, like I said, is still pretty neutral. The mustard is just a more warm tone neutral. Purple, I would say, you know, teeters on neutral. And you have some good browns and some good khakis in here. I like this palette. It just is definitely borderline. If you're not someone who can really see looks with this, I don't recommend this palette. But this palette surprised me in how much I liked it, and I continue to like it. So this is a good one for me. It's a good one to like really push myself out of my box without feeling too intimidated. So like this one, happy with the looks that I came out with. And then another just surprising one that I really liked, I will spoil it and say that I'm pretty positive, if memory serves, I ranked this over the Muse, which even I was surprised about, but it's the Cosmic Beauty Sinister palette, which was their holiday Halloween launch last year, 2024. It looks like this. Not everyone loves this palette. I think I have a unpopular opinion about this palette, but I actually quite liked it when I played around with it and used it no pan left behind. I think it's a lot more intimidating than it actually is, especially because you have this ghost shade here. But I created like this really fun, just like super artistic look. Would I ever really wear that out in public? No, but it was so fun to do. And I loved taking a photo of it and just documenting that. I had a lot of fun with that look. And then after that, like the other shades in this palette are pretty neutral. Like once you take this row out, I think it's very similar to the Smoulder palette. You have, you know, your dusty pinks, you have some dusty purples, and then you have like this dusty neutral shade. Like it's a pretty neutral palette, all things considered. And it's one of the better ones from Cosmic Beauty. I wish they still continued to make this palette because I think a lot more people would like it if they just gave this palette a chance. But those are all the palettes that I used this past month. So we are like a month behind. I'm filming this in December, so it kind of feels like this project has come to an end, but I have to keep reminding myself I still have the entire month of December to get through my palettes and use them and try to get as many done as possible. I knew at the beginning of the year that hitting 100% was just going to be out of the question for me. I have way, way too many palettes to be able to do that. I would have to no pan left behind at least one palette a day, and that's just not going to happen. I do sometimes have things to do. I don't have time to play around with makeup all day, every day, as much as I would love to. Actually, I wouldn't love to. That sounds a little bit too repetitive, but you get what I'm trying to say. I knew I wasn't going to hit 100%. I was at least trying to hit 50%, and I was feeling last month was probably my hardest month, my October update. I feel like I was kind of just going through the motions when I was editing that video and adding in my looks. A lot of them just looked really muddy. Like it just really felt like I was putting shades on my eyes to put shades on my eyes and not necessarily create looks. So I really tried to pivot this month and get some palettes done. Like I said, my Cosmic Beauty, my Unearthly, and then a lot for my pile of shame. But also like maybe do 4 looks with a palette instead of trying to get it done in 3 looks. So that was another goal that I had for this month. And I think I did a lot better with that. So let's talk about numbers. I am very, very excited about my numbers. Now, it has to do in part with the decluttering that I've been doing behind the scenes. I did do a pretty, in my opinion, big declutter for eyeshadow palettes. I'll link the video up above where I did film that, but it left me with 228 palettes. And that was after decluttering around 50 palettes. It just was still a little bit too much for me. And I really tried to go through my collection without filming it. And I've been decluttering just day by day palettes that maybe I didn't have the heart to declutter in that video. So I now have a grand total of 194 palettes. Now that does not include the palettes that are coming in from my purchases and empties video that just went up, like I said, on Thursday, because I haven't put those in my spreadsheet yet. But I'm so proud of that number to go from 228 to 194. And that was after I decluttered 50 palettes in my video, my like actual declutter video. I feel like I'm doing a really good job, and I don't even remember most of the palettes that I decluttered. So that tells me that I'm on the right track and I'm making forward progress, because eventually I do want to have a collection that I can get through an entire year. I like having an extensive collection, but I just think that maybe I need to be a little bit more mindful on like the repetitiveness. Like I just do. And there's some that I'm just realistically not going to use. And I'm just trying to be a little bit more honest with myself and less in that collector's mindset. But that was enough of like the tangent. You want to hear the numbers. So like I said, I have 194 palettes in my collection now. So that is really going to skew my numbers just a little bit. Last month during that update, I ended my update with 90 palettes completed for the year at a 39% of my collection complete. So I finished 10 palettes this month, which out of 194 palettes puts me at 5.2% for the month. Now, if I do that for year to date, that puts me at exactly 100 palettes for the year, because I was at 90. I don't know how I was able to hit exactly 100 palettes. Sometimes it seems fake. I feel like when the numbers are like exactly rounded, or some kind of like not an odd number, like 103 or something like that. But that's what it is. I'm not going to skew the numbers just to make it look more realistic, but 100 palettes on the year so far, which I think is really, really a good job. Out of 194 palettes means that I am at 51.5%. And that feels really, really good, because last update, I didn't think I was even going to hit 50%. And I know a big part of that is the decluttering. That's what's making my numbers a little bit higher, but still, I'm looking at it as a very positive thing to have hit the 51%. Now, I don't think that I'm going to be decluttering too much in this next month, so I won't see as big of a jump. Like that was over 10% jump, even though I only did 5% this past month. I don't think I'll see as big of a jump for December, but even if I could get to 55%, it is much higher than I thought I was going to be last month. And that feels just really, really good with what I was able to accomplish. I feel like this project has really helped me kind of look at my collection through a different set of eyes and look at more practicality-wise of like what I need to have in my collection, while also being a makeup enthusiast, if that's making any sense. Anyways, that is my update for No Pan Left Behind. I would love to know if you are on this journey with me, if you are also trying to use all of your palettes in your collection, if you succeeded with your goal, which if you did, congratulations. If you're kind of in the same spot as me, just learning a little bit about yourself and your collection, let me know either way. But this is where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a good one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.